Welcome in to the Unblocked podcast, part of the Unblocked podcast network. It is Wednesday, November the 1st. Happy Day of the Dead to everyone. Hope everyone had a great, safe, and prosperous, sugary Halloween. I'm Keith, and I'm here with Coach Brian, and our special guest joining us today is going to be Gary Beasley. Once again, we always want to thank Osteo Strong on Hillcrest. Remember, bone health is good health. Go see them for any of the joints and bone issues you may have, and they'll keep you going for a long time. Also, remember, don't just like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Interact with us on the social medias, too, especially on Twitter. We're always on there. Hit us up, Unblocked Pod, and we'll be there. We can happy to take your questions, which we will answer on the podcast. We've been doing that the last couple weeks. But, yeah, we're on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, X, all that good stuff, whatever you want to call it. So now, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Coach, and Coach and Gary are going to get right to it.
Very good. Appreciate it, Keith. Good to have you back. Missed you last week. Look forward to hearing about your trip to watch your beloved Bears play the Chargers, I believe, this past week. Our guest is a longtime friend of mine, Gary Beasley. Gary is a longtime high school, college, junior college official, one of the, in my opinion, the best white hat that in Southwest Alabama, being a referee for football games, just from how he manages games and runs games and handles his crew and manages the sidelines, all the things that go with being a great white hat. So, Gary, we appreciate you taking the time to come on. Good to have you.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you for all those kind words.
Yeah, Gary, tell us, what happened in your life that leads you to being a football official? What of all the things that, there's a shortage in the world right now of football officials, and you're the one of the few that I know that's been on an upward trajectory in their career ever since I've known them. Why a football official, and where did your love for this sort of start? Where did you find it?
Well, it started, my first game was youth football in the youth leagues around Mobile, just to earn extra pamper money, quite honestly. It was a way for us to order income on the weekends and, still keep a day job, and just kind of ran with it and fell in love with it. I've had family members and great mentors along the way that really pushed you through it. And without that support, I don't know where I'd be today. So it's really just a passion of mine now.
Now, did you play football in high school, sports? What was your story there? What was your love for sports, and how did that come about?
I played basketball. Believe it or not, I played basketball and football in high school. In my sophomore year, I broke my ankle. So that kind of changed my path towards high school athletics. Fell in love and went to work, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Now you've been officiating for how long?
Started in 1998.
Okay, and that all encompassing, was that youth league football games, middle school games? Did you start at that level and work your way into the spot you're in now?
Yeah, that's that was when I first joined the Alabama High School Athletic Association, 1998. Did my first final Super 6, I guess it was back then, in 2004 and 2005, went back to back. 2014, I was fortunate enough to do my first D1 football game. Troy was my first football game in D1 level. And recently in 2021, no longer involved with the D1 programs and D2. Just now I just focus on junior college and have fun with my buddies on Friday night in high school.
And now you do Mississippi junior college games.
Yeah, correct.
I'm
I'm a referee in that league as well.
Got you. And is the talent level there still as high as it been historically? What does it look like over there now?
It's really, really good football. Those kids are, D1 talent level. Just for some reason, they're not playing on Saturdays for whatever either grades or whatever other reason they got going on. But they're all hungry, and the talent. You definitely see those guys on Saturdays and Sundays now.
Right. Right. Well, now, have you ever had the pleasure of having a Buddy Stevens game?
Absolutely. I was fortunate. My wife had the championship game last year, and Buddy won the league.
All right.
But the Last Chance U, I was on there a few times with him. So yeah, we've had our games.
Yeah, Buddy was. We crossed paths twice in life. When I was the offensive coordinator at Delta State, spring of '88, before I went to Southern Illinois, two people. But Buddy Stevens was the center on that team, and Mark Hudspeth was one of the quarterbacks on that team. The head coach at Gulf Shores, and Mark was like the third guy in the bunch. Buddy, I hate to say it, but it was 1988. It was a different era. Buddy snapped the ball on one time during a practice session where we were going on two, and I put my foot square in the middle of Buddy's rear end, and to let him know that I was unhappy with his performance at that moment. You'd be arrested today if you did that, but it was a different time. And then at Central Tuscaloosa, I was offensive coordinator at Central Tuscaloosa in 1999. Buddy was the tackle tight end coach on that team, and so we coached together for a year there, and got to know him there. In 1998, let's just say Buddy's he developed a much larger vocabulary over the years than he had in 1999. He didn't quite. He didn't say all them words I've heard him say. I mean, you can't hardly watch Instagram reels without a Buddy Stevens clip popping through there at some point in time. Him wearing that kid out in the locker room. He's a funny human being.
Officials alike, though, he don't call anybody. He get on you for nothing. So he's a character.
Did we lose Gary? Gary, you still there?
Gary looks a bit frozen, but we'll give him a moment here.
You back?
Maybe he'll get back in. But yeah, I'm sure y'all seen Buddy Stevens' Last Chance U, right?
Oh yeah,
a great show.
He's a character. There's no doubt about that. I think there's a lot of characters in junior college ranks. No matter where you are in the country.
I was a junior college guy, but it was back in the day when that's where slow white kids went to develop their skills. It was not loaded with Division I blue chip talent. It was different. Back in those days, there was no academic standards in college football. All you had to do was take the ACT and have a 2.0 GPA. Well, if you had a heartbeat, you had a 2.0 GPA. I mean, and you weren't certain classes you had to take. There was no Prop 48. So, everybody went to a 4-year school except the less talented of us. And so it was a much different league in 1978, 79 than obviously that it is now, and as it transitioned after Prop 48 in the mid 80s, late 80s, whenever that occurred.
It was the late 80s. The mid 80s, you could still get those guys, and they'd be so much stronger, and they before the transfer portal, that's what you had. You bring in those JUCO guys to patch those holes, whereas now you use a portal to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I signed some guys in that stretch that they didn't know that the sun rose in the east, but they could stick your foot in the ground and make somebody miss.
Yeah.
We back on?
No doubt.
Do we want to just go ahead and carry on and then go back to Gary if he's able to get back in?
He's obviously trying, because he just sent me a text of a picture of him and Buddy Stevens as we're having this conversation. There's Gary and Buddy.
They were getting along in that photo for sure.
That's great. Shoot.
Are we back?
It looks like Gary's making it. He still tried. Oh, shoot. And,
well, why don't we move on, and we'll just, if he comes back, we can kind of pick up right where we left off there. And
shoot ya.
But so let's go. Brian, where do you want to go? Do you want to go into playoff reactions? We want to go into Heisman. What do you want to go into?
Playoff. Let's go with your SoFi first. How was your trip?
Okay. Trip was, minus. Well, the outcome was about what I expected from the Bears. I hoped for better. I did watch it back on replay, and it wasn't as bad as it looked on in person. But then again, the beautiful thing was we left Friday. I left the house here about 2 a.m., and there was a 6 a.m. flight direct on Delta from New Orleans to L.A. So my buddy out there who I stayed with, he was able to pick us up, and we were back at his house, unpacked and changed, ready to go by 9 o'clock in the morning, LA time. So it was basically just a free day out there, and we did all kinds of just the touristy stuff both days. Met up with some friends out there as well, had a couple beers, went all around town Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday kind of just really focused on the football game. But let me tell you, that SoFi Stadium complex is top notch. Everything you've seen about it, everything you've heard about it, it was nothing but class out there. And Brian, it's very similar to, you see it from the outside, you see that really cool roof design on there. And it's truly open air. You could feel the sea breeze all day, all game. It was never anything, wouldn't interfere with the game, but just enough. Great views of the sunsets, and but yeah, it was really cool experience. The tailgating area was fantastic. The amenities in there were fantastic. Food was good. Drinks and beers were average price, and nothing I was overly shocked about. No worse than going to a Saints game. But like I was saying, Brian, you'd be more familiar with the way kind of Michigan, the big house is. It's kind of a big hole in the ground that they built a stadium into. And when you walk into SoFi Stadium, I kid you not, that massive halo scoreboard they got going around the top there, you are almost level with that when you walk in on the main floor. So you kind of walking in already up on the 300 level, and you're looking down into that stadium, and it is just massive. And the other thing is, too, then you can crank your neck and look back up, too, and you see some of those seats that just keep going up and up and up. But yeah, overall, a fantastic time. We stayed just south of LA with my buddy in Redondo Beach, so a couple blocks off the beach. So I was able to get up in the morning, walk down to the pier, get a cup of coffee and, pastry or donut or something, and kind of just go for it. And we just had a really good time. Hit Santa Monica, hit Venice, did all the touristy stuff, like I said. We were actually probably about within a mile of Matthew Perry's house when that news broke through on Twitter.
Oh.
We were actually driving through Beverly Hills, and I just, quick Google search, you can look up celebrity addresses, and we were, he was probably maybe, now if you had to take a road to get there, it might have been 2 miles because you kind of had to zigzag up the mountains a little bit, but from where we were, as the crow flies, we were probably within a mile of his house. So it was kind of a shocker out there, and it was kind of you could tell out there it was really, really somber Saturday evening and Sunday especially. But Gary's back.
Sorry, guys, I can see y'all.
Well,
Gary,
I'll just finish up by saying coming back was a lot. LAX, I'm going to tell you right now, it was the best airport experience I've ever had. We left from my buddy's house. We got to the Delta security. Now, granted, Delta does not have a very large commercial flight back and forth from LAX to Chicago O'Hare, mainly because Chicago O'Hare is a United hub. So flying out of Delta that morning, everyone going back to Chicago was flying United or Southwest. So we literally walked right up, and there were 2 people ahead of us at the line to go through the metal detectors and the baggage deal. So I had no problem with that. But yeah, other than that, can't complain. Got a beer at the airport, and then the only hard part was coming back with the time change, and then we had to drive from New Orleans to Daphne to pick up Bob, and then back to Mobile. So when we finally got home at about 10 o'clock our time here, and me getting up at 4 a.m. for work the next morning, I was about ready for bed. So, but yeah, overall, if you get a chance to go to SoFi Stadium for anything, highly recommend it. Just go out there. There's always plenty of tickets. We bought our tickets, I think, about 1 o'clock the day of the game. And we were in the 400 level, which is kind of like a small club level. And we were front row of that, kind of corner of the end zone. Could see perfectly. I think we got those for about $100 a ticket after fees. So couldn't complain. It was great. And you could see everything. Scoreboard was right there. You could see all the replays. You got a great view of the field and everything. Again, the performance was about what I expected, but at the same time, it was tough to watch.
Still had a good time.
I always had a good time. It was Halloween in LA. Why not?
Gary, are you back? Can you hear us?
I think so, buddy.
Okay.
Very good. Yeah, we went on and started talking about Keith's trip while you were getting relocated there and dealing with that, and we did show showed everybody the picture of you and your pal Buddy Stevens. Where was that located?
That was at the Kenny Chesney concert at the Wharf.
Okay. I thought I saw Wharf in the background, but I was trying to figure out how that all played out. So, okay, that makes sense. Very good. Now, let's go back to tell us your business. You run a business there in Mobile. Tell us about your business and how you got into it and what you're doing now besides officiating.
I very fortunate to have a plumbing contracting business here in Mobile. We specialize in multifamily and hospitality hotels all around the Southeast. I started doing plumbing when I was in high school.
That is a family. Okay. And that's a family-owned and operated business, correct?
Correct. My wife works here. My son works here, so we're family ran, I guess.
Very cool. So now, as a white hat, you've got obviously seen a lot of things. Have you ever thrown a coach out of a game?
Not a head coach. Assistant coaches.
Yeah.
I've got 1 or 2 in my career. Most of the time, a head coach will give you the respect after you give them first warning or 2, but assistant coaches, yeah, they got to go.
Yeah. And that's just, and I know all my years telling assistant coaches, let me handle the officials. That is my job. Let me do the talking. You're making it worse. You're not helping the matter here. And as many white hats have told me, and I'm sure you've told them, I'll stand here and listen to you all day. But that right there I ain't listening to him anymore. You need to do something about him.
Yeah, it's just a different language, I guess. I don't know. They're sarcastic. I don't know. I don't know why, but it's just tough to listen to
them. So the one of the best things that I thought that you did as an official over the years that I had you was manage the game within the players, within the trash talking, that kind of stuff, and just sort of keeping that stuff under control, keeping guys from having to get 15-yard penalties and things, the things that would actually impact the game. What and is your philosophy on dealing with player interaction during the game and managing it?
Well, football is a game of emotion, highs and lows every play, and I understand that. But you also have to have a little bit of football instinct, I think, to be a good official. And dealing with coaches, I don't let coaches berate me as a referee in front of players. I'd have zero tolerance for that. Now, if you want to go down to the 20-yard line, we can have a colorful conversation. I'm fine with that. But once you show, disrespect for me in front of the players, then the players think it's okay. And I draw a really quick line with that, because then I got to put up with them on the field as well. So as long as a coach is respectful to me, I'm honest with every coach I have too. Coach, we missed it, or my favorite line for a coach is coach, if that's the way you saw it, we may have missed it. So, and there's not a whole lot he can say to that.
Right. I think probably that from you don't in college, you don't see it get called very often. Usually they'll give a sideline warning every now and then, and I think
Brian,
there's a trickle down effect to high school coaches with being on the field. And coaches, we saw Jimbo Fisher here a while back. I mean, literally the play ran behind him, between him and the sideline. And he didn't even get a sideline warning. I mean, he was in the middle of an interception return in the Auburn, Texas A&M game. And keeping coaches off the field. I mean, Kirby Smart, he's got a guy who's grabbing his waistband the entire game to keep him pulled back, that kind of thing. The managing those guys having to manage the sideline. How hard have you found that to be?
Coach, I lost you.
Still there? Can you hear me now?
Brian, you there?
I can barely hear you.
I can hear you good. I can't see Coach.
I hear you.
He's there, Gary. It'll be fine. Just go ahead.
Did you hear Coach's question, Gary?
No, just me and you.
Now the question was about keeping guys back on the sideline, and that trickle down effect from college guys being out in the middle of the field about half the game, and then high school coaches feel like they sort of do the same thing, and so the guy on the sideline is constantly telling them to get back, not wanting to give a sideline warning. How much do y'all discuss that? Talk about that? Do you talk about guys that for pre-game? Do you get together and talk about guys that are notorious for being on the field and how you're going to deal with them during that particular game?
Brian, you still there?
Yeah, Gary, we're having so many problems. We're going to try and reschedule this if we can.
Okay, buddy. I mean, I see me and you, and I can hear. I can hear you real good.
What Coach asked was, how do you keep coaches off the sideline? How do you keep them like Jimbo Fisher, where he's out there in the middle of the field?
Well, I leave that up to my wingman. And my philosophy on Saturday or on Thursday nights is, if I have to go talk to a coach, then he already knows it's not going to be good. Because in a college crew, I mean, everybody's equal. Whatever my wingman tells the coach, I should be able to, hear the same thing from me. So now Friday night's a little bit different. High school coaches, and much as I hate to say it, the quality of official, you may have a 1-year guy on the sideline that you have to go help out, but so it's a little bit different. Everybody on Friday night kind of looks to the white hat as the lead official, the one who's supposed to know all the rules, and kind of puts the pressure on him. So it's a little bit more of a stress level on Friday night than it is on a Saturday game.
Gotcha. Keath, questions for Gary as a football official? You've worn out an official or two on the podcast over the last couple of months. What you got anything?
Keath, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Keath.
Oh, there we go. I got it. I'm back. Okay, sorry about that. No, my and Coach, you may be able to fill in on this too, but a good friend of mine's father was an official with the Alabama High School Athletic Association for a long time. His name was Willie Crabtree. I don't think he was a white hat, but I don't know if you ever had any interactions with him, or his son is a good friend of mine. And one thing I always remember, and I always will remember, I was actually the officiant at his son's wedding for his current wife, Lindsay. But at Willie's funeral after he passed, I'll never forget seeing the image of about 10 guys that he officiated with, a couple white hats. Everyone showed up in their uniform. And Willie was buried, I believe, with his whistle. I mean, he loved that so much. It was a really cool experience. So I don't know if either of you have had a run-in with him or not. Looks like we lost Gary, though, again.
The name doesn't ring a bell. I have been to a couple of officials' funerals out of respect over the years, and you're right. It is amazing, the official community, how they turn out when they lose one of their guys. I mean, it is just a reunion of football officials, because the camaraderie of those guys, the fraternity of those guys, they share so many common bonds through, whether it's being verbally assaulted or called, every name in the book, or having their life threatened at a youth league football game. I mean, and folks forget, they see those guys. Those guys work. They'll do high school, they'll do middle school, they'll do youth league football. I mean, they keep sports alive. I mean, and without them, what are you going to do? And there's become a shortage in the nation, and certainly in Alabama, of young guys not wanting to go into officiating because they've seen they don't want to be treated that way, and and talked to that way, and yeah, I think our latest generation is probably a little more thin-skinned than the older guys, and struggle with it, being criticized a little more. Whatever it is, not just officiating, and it's a tough thing to jump out there and get into. No question. No question.
Yeah, I mean, you see the same thing, I think, across all sports, is people ask why there are the lack of good officials. You have plenty of officials, but the lack of good officials is people don't want to put themselves in that situation, because you see kind of what they all go through, and they're doing it out of usually love for the game and a little extra money, but at the same time, the abuse they get, like you said, they could draw some people away from the game and the profession too. So, speaking of officials, something I want to bring up to right now is this kind of just came through within the hour. A college basketball official's best friend, Bobby Knight, passed away today at the age of 83. So I'm sure we can all look back on anytime we've watched Coach Knight in a highlight, there's always an official involved, and he's always giving them a good ribbing. So, but yeah, rest in peace to Bobby Knight, that legendary coach, and that's all I got to say about that.
I think in his book he had an entire chapter dedicated to multiple uses of the F word, and how it was the most usable word in the English language, and it could be an adjective, a noun, an adverb, a pronoun. It could be whatever you wanted it to be. And, so he was definitely a character, but also knew his basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, he was a coach, and he loved his players. He hated his players. He loved the officials. He hated the officials. He was just there was no one like him. Few similar, but no one quite like him. But all right, looks like Gary's still having issues, so we'll just keep moving on. The next thing we want to talk about is on yesterday, the College Football Playoff Committee released their rankings, and I'm just going to put them out there. Number 1 through 4, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State. 5 through 8 is Washington, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. Reactions, Brian? Why don't you go first there?
I have no problems with the first 4. You could have put them in any order, as we've talked about for the last couple of weeks. Obviously, they rewarded Ohio State for 2 top 25 wins. But my question it would be, if you're going to do that, Florida State has 2 top 25 wins as well. So, and then you kind of group Georgia and Michigan in the middle. So, I mean, I obviously can argue with whatever, but I think they got the first 4 right, in my opinion. Coach, what do you think?
I mean, I had the same 8, not necessarily 5, 6, 7, and 8. No, maybe not necessarily in the same order. I mean, they know that Ohio State and Michigan are going to play. I mean, they know that's probably going to have an Oregon Washington rematch. So you've got playoff games built in already on the back end, more than likely. Alabama LSU is pretty much a play-in game to the SEC championship game. They know that's coming up. All those things are ahead of them. Florida State, in my opinion, has the most direct path. I mean, they don't have a King Kong on their schedule. They just got to win games that they're actually supposed to win. If they just win the games they're supposed to win, they will be in the college football playoff, possibly as one of the only 2, or even the only, one of the only 2 teams left undefeated when it gets there, very possibly, or at least certainly, I guess certainly 3 of them could be whenever Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia runs the table, and Florida State, with a 1-loss team, sitting in that 4th spot, whomever that is, and they want a Pac-12 team in it. I mean, they want one in it bad, so they're praying that Oregon and Washington run the table, play each other, and it plays out where one of them can be the 4th team and make it. So then you got one out of every conference. They're going to make more money. There's going to be more people watch it on TV nationwide. It works for everybody to get SEC, everybody but the Big 12 basically represented if they can get that done.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I've been having Ohio State number 1 just because the 2 teams they beat. Brian, you're 100% right. Florida State did beat 2 top 25 teams. I think the way the rankings came out, I saw Danielle talking about it on the socials earlier about how they only consider Clemson. But, Duke was, either way, I'm good with all of it. It's going into this weekend is where we're really going to start to see some things, because
A
a lot
lot
of
of
these teams have had
separation.
their bye weeks, and you're going to start getting to rivalries, and you're going to start getting into, a couple of these teams will still play a D2 school right before their final game of the year. But yeah, it's going to be great to watch. We got it coming down the pipeline here. My curiosity comes into, I think, in the battle of the one-loss teams. I think Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. It's hard to argue. Texas beat Bama. Texas lost to Oklahoma. Oklahoma lost to Kansas this past weekend. It's going to be tight to get that. If one of those 1 through 4 teams lose, and you end up with 5 one-loss teams and 3 undefeated teams, it's going to be a definite nail biter to see who's in and who's out. So we'll wait and see what happens, but that's why we watch sports, because every week we hope to see something that we haven't seen before. And Kansas beating Oklahoma, that's kind of like it happened too. Just love to see it. Throw the goalpost in the lake. Let's go.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Absolutely. But speaking of college football, we are getting close. The most coveted award in the college football landscape is the Heisman Trophy, and there's a lot of talk building up now. Bets are being made and everything there. So, Brian, who you got on your Heisman radar?
I've got Michael Penix Jr., number 1, from Washington. I've got J.J. McCarthy, 2. Jaden Daniels from LSU, number 3, and Jordan Travis from FSU, number 4. I think it's a quarterback award. I think Marvin Harrison's one of the best players in the country, but I don't think a wide receiver can win the Heisman. Just traditional. So, Coach, who do you got?
And again, I don't base any of my stuff on what anybody else thinks or what the betting lines are on who's going to win the Heisman. I go with my personal eye test. I've got the top 4 in no particular order: Bo Nix, Jordan Travis, Jaden Daniels, and Marvin Harrison. I think they're the most impactful players on their teams in the country. But if you take any of those guys out of their offenses, their teams are not near as good. I think, J.J. McCarthy's had a great season, but I think there's a lot of people that can be undefeated at Michigan right now playing quarterback there. I think if I time traveled from 1981, Fred Riley 81 to 2023, and was the quarterback at Michigan, Michigan would still be undefeated, and I would be on Brian Gottfried's Heisman list. So
maybe, but it would depend on your third down efficiency. He's been pretty efficient on third down this year. Unbelievable.
I would have been too.
I'm sure you would have.
Brian, when you sent that text out that this week we're going to do a Heisman top 5 instead of college top 5, I was sitting back and like, man, why couldn't you give me one more week to watch Michigan actually play Penn State instead of, and watch that quarterback under.
We can go back to top 5 later. I just figured it'd be a good change.
But still, either way, just I need a little more. I wanted to see Michigan play someone of relevance. And, again, like I said, I've always said, I'm an Illinois guy. I'm a Golden Domer. You can only beat who's on the schedule in front of you. Michigan has done everything they can, everything they're supposed to, everything to show everybody how good they are. And we'll just see how it plays out. Again, they've got Penn State and Ohio State, and then a Big Ten, battle against
Purdue, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State. Those 4 left.
I'm just saying they got Penn State and Ohio State on the schedule. And then, if they win those, then you got to lock up with Iowa. And all you got to do is score more than 25 points, and you can win that game. So we'll just see what happens. But as far as my Heisman, and like I said, eye test, I'm awful with names. So when Brian sent this out, I just said the kid from Washington, the kid from Michigan, receiver, Ohio State, and the kid at Oregon from Auburn. So,
Bo Nix.
and a funny thing about that too, Coach, which you mentioned Bo Nix there, you've got, and Michael Penix, you have two transfer portal guys in your Heisman Trophy, where it's the day and age we're living in now too, where you can make a move and come from a situation where you weren't succeeding, go somewhere else, and within 2 years you're considered up for the top award in college football. And you're going from Auburn to Oregon, you're going from Indiana, where you definitely did something to get noticed there, and going to Washington, again, a prominent program, but no one's looking at the SEC right now for Heisman Trophy things. And the LSU quarterback has, just from a brief research, has gotten some traction, but I think he can make or break his entire candidacy. Exactly. His entire candidacy will be relying on what he does against Alabama. If he can show out there, that can be a huge push for him. So, well, off of college football, let's get into the NFL. I was at that Bears-Chargers game. Again, go to SoFi Stadium. You can always get a ticket, especially if it's the Chargers. Just wait till about noon the day of. Go on StubHub, SeatGeek, all that. Dude, just go. Have a great time.
Probably more Bears fans than Charger fans.
You know what?
There's a little bit more to do in LA than NFL.
Oh, the entire upper deck, the entire the fifth floor was all orange and blue. There were, the entire stadium. There were more cheers for the Bears coming out for warm-ups than the Chargers got the entire pregame. Like, the Bears running out got more cheers than the Chargers in personal introductions. Maybe Khalil Mack got the biggest roar because all the Bears fans there, we all gave him the respect he deserves. But, unfortunately, it would have been a home game for the Bears if their defense showed up and both of our starting safeties weren't injured and we just played football. But going on from there, Coach, or we'll start with Brian. We'll go down the row again. Brian, top 5 in the NFL.
This was a tougher one. Eagles, number 1, obviously. I've got Dolphins 2, Chiefs 3. I've got the Dallas Cowboys number 4. Pretty good offensive team, good defensive team too. And then I've got the Ravens at 5. My Ravens. Coach, who do you have?
I couldn't narrow it down to 6. I went with to 5. I went with 6. I cheated.
That's fine.
Eagles, Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, and Jaguars, Lions, sort of right there tied.
I've got Jaguars. That's
really
pretty close.
All right, I'm going to throw a little curveball in here. I got 1 through 3. I think we're all kind of similar. I got Eagles, Dolphins, Chiefs. Number 4 is whoever plays the Bears. And number 5 is whoever plays the Raiders. So those are 4 and 5. You're going to like right now the San Diego, I'm still saying the LA Chargers, they could win the Super Bowl the way they looked the other day. So, but yeah, the Bears are just doing what they're doing. It's going to be a slow build. We made some moves today. We got Sweat from Washington, and he's in his 4th year of his contract. We still have the franchise option. Hopefully, we can give him not the franchise option. If there's a 5th, we can franchise tag him, and hopefully we give him a good contract. He'll finish out his career as a Bear, give him 4 more years, but that'll definitely add to our pass rush. But yeah, it was tough. So, and granted, our head coach is also our impromptu defensive coordinator, and that's a whole nother podcast. So, Thursday night football, Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Any interest in? We got a former
Will
SEC
Levis.
quarterback. Yes, sir.
Will Levis going against Pittsburgh. I haven't seen if Pickett's going to play. I think he had rib injury. So Mitch Trubisky will sub in if Pickett can't play. I haven't seen yet whether he'll play, but it could be a decent game. See how Will Levis does in his second game after he's put a little bit more tape out, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, Levis will, you're right. I mean, I think he'll play. He'll, as always, get 2 or 3 games under your belt, 2 or 3 games where they can study you on film and then see how well you do. But again, I think anybody that's saw any of that game. I didn't think that he threw the ball that well at Kentucky. I mean, you knew he was a talent, but you try to watch Kentucky his senior year, and you're trying to say, oh, God, what? I know he's about to be a millionaire, but mercy, I mean, he doesn't look like he carries the team the way you thought. Well, like again, all the guys we just talked about a few minutes ago, and then his first game in the NFL, he carries the team. So that's why folks make a lot more money.
He'll be
picking
facing
those
a little
guys
bit better
than I do.
He'll be facing a little bit better defense tomorrow, though, than what he faced last Sunday.
No question.
Solid on defense.
Yeah, it's there's two things I don't trust in this world: Mitch Trubisky and people who eat bananas without peeling them first.
Okay.
So that sums up both the quarterbacks here, and also Will Levis puts mayonnaise in his coffee in the morning. Don't forget that. So it's yeah.
Can't root for either one of them now.
Yeah, Coach and I actually had Coach and I talked about this the other week. Is when we were referring to the Chicago Bears situation. Is once you get tape on someone, the NFL is one of the quickest leagues to adjust. A good coach who has a job for a long time can see that, read the tape on it, and he'll have it figured out within a week if they're a good coach, or at least have a game plan for it. So everyone's got tape on Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky came in last week threw 2 picks in his relief duty. Will Levis, there's some tape on him now, a full game. We'll see what he can do, and I'm excited to see it. Look, go SEC, go quarterback. But yeah, I trust Mitch Trubisky less in this state than Will Levis. So they're right up there with Brian Kelly winning a big game for me.
And I've talked to Jim Cox, local celebrity, UTV 44 game of the week guy. Their final game is this week. He is a Chicago Bear fan as you are, Keith, and he has agreed to come on the show sometime in the next couple of weeks. And me and Brian are just going to sit and let y'all have a Bash the Bear show, or at least a good section where y'all can interview one another. I just think it would be awesome for you two guys just to
couple bottles of wine for both of them, and Coach and I just sit back.
He owns a wine store, Southern Napa Wine Store,
exactly.
in Daphne, and
let's go over there and do it.
We might be able to pull that off too. Y'all just sit next to each other and make it work. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure he'd love to.
That sounds like a great idea. Yeah, we go over there, Brian. If you can't make it out, if one of us can't make it, then we can do it remote. But yeah, we'll go set up the whole setup there, and
we'll be
get the whole interaction
couch,
ready to
Coach.
go.
We'll be on your couch if we're in the red wine, though. So don't want to drive back across the bay. So
shoot.
Hey, I'll get the girlfriend to drive us.
Coming up, tomorrow we've got Unblocked Baseball with Rooster, Brett Simmelmacher, and John Lieber. And then Friday we've got John Lucas, who wrote the book, Haven't They Suffered Enough, about Beano Cook. So we're looking forward to both of those shows. And then next week we'll have all new guests, and we'll have another week of football to talk about, Coach. So,
yes,
and
sir.
the Alabama high school playoffs coming up.
High school playoffs coming up, but obviously the Alabama LSU in this state is where most eyes will be. Certainly,
and we're going to
hope the Auburn Tigers can get them another win in Nashville, and another one of those places, sort of like the Bears and the Chargers. There'll be more Auburn people in the stands in Nashville than there'll be Commodore fans, and it'll be louder for them.
We'll spend a little bit more time on some of the SEC games this weekend. A couple big ones coming up between Missouri and Georgia, and Alabama LSU, and kind of give our predictions on it as well on Friday. So,
no doubt.
That sounds good. Yeah, and it was definitely, walking through the parking lot, it was 3 or 5 to 1 Bears to Chargers fans out in LA. It was our Uber driver said, I picked up someone when we were going to the airport on Monday morning. Our Uber driver said, I picked up someone from the airport at 1:00 and said, just take me to the stadium. And where do I get an Uber to go back? Because I got a red eye back to Chicago tonight. So, people will travel, it's always fun to see, and just like in college football and all that too. So, but yeah, let's wrap it up. Brian, looking
Great.
forward to that guest on Friday. Love us some Beano Cook. If you've ever listened to
Yep.
Tim Brando, he waxed poetic about him. So, but again, we're the Unblocked Podcast, part of the Unblocked Podcast Network, and please interact with us. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and especially Twitter or X. Get your questions in. We'll answer them on air. Or if you just got a business you want to promote on here and want to promote an event, maybe give us an email. Give us the information. It's unblockedpod@gmail.com. And Osteo Strong, thank you again for everything you do and keeping mobile. So I'm Keith, and for Coach and Brian, we'll see you next time.